Module 2 of our biology lab class. So I know we had a little bit of maybe some difficulty with the Gateway Online Carolina lab. Hopefully you are a little bit more comfortable with it. I am still going to leave the lab 1 open, or the module 1 labs open, just in case anybody had any difficulty and just needed an extra day or so to get the lab submitted. But from now on, for module 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's going to be closed after that Sunday evening deadline. So just be aware of that. But let me know if you are still having any difficulties with the online module, the online lab. If you're having difficulty downloading, just let me know. That way I can let our team know and they can work with the Carolina biology lab and online help and can get things moving here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you all can see in terms of what is due for this week. So hopefully you can share, you can see my screen here. So this again, you go to module 2 where my cursor is. So this week we're going to be learning about chemistry. You know, you may not believe that chemistry has a lot to do with biology, but it kind of does. So again, chemistry, you may have had a chemistry class. If you haven't, don't worry at all. It's not, you don't need any understanding of any background knowledge of chemistry. But it should be a pretty fun lab in terms of looking at pH and buffers. So with the module introduction here, again, just a quick little overview of what we're going to be learning about. So again, why it's important to regulate our pH. What is pH? What does it indicate? Looking at volume and looking at acids and bases as well. So the readings and resources, or the overview, is kind of a similar thing. I'm going to skip over that. So if you are taking the course lecture along with our lab, this is going to be concentrating on chapter 2, specifically looking at 2.1 and 2.2. You'll be happy to know that you only have 1 assignment due this week. So that's going to be a great one. I know last week was quite a bit. You had the lab safety agreement, the discussion and your responses, 1.3, which was like some additional questions on lab safety, and then the 2 labs. So it's quite a bit for the first week. So you can have a little bit of a breather this week. You just have 1 assignment, which we'll get to here in a second. And then that's all you have to submit. And then next week is going to be a looking at your final project. So there's 4 virtual labs that are listed here and the rubrics and guidelines here. You're going to choose one and you're going to formulate research questions. So it's kind of like using the scientific method that we learned about last week in module 1. So just kind of take a look at this section here, and that way you can understand what is going to be due for next week for module 1, which is the topic really, which you're going to be doing a little bit of background information on that. But let's concentrate as to what is due for this week, which is the chemistry of life. So again, to access the lab, you're just going to click on this, or I access it through the guidelines and rubrics. So if you look at module 2, again, the chemistry of life, this is very important here. Let me highlight it here so you can see it. Just so that if you are, an organizer, or if you have a lot going on, just know that this lab should take about an hour. So that way you can plan ahead. Please don't start it at 11:30 on Sunday night. You're not going to get it done anytime within that 60-minute, but make sure that you have enough time to do that. Again, if you scroll down, this is how I'm going to be grading your lab reports. So based on the experiments, your data, your analysis, the results you represented, and then any of those post-lab questions that are in there. All right, so I clicked on, again, to get to this chemistry of life here. I'm just going to click on the screen. So this may be a little bit different from what you all see, but this is just kind of an overview to the chemistry lab. I just kind of wanted to point a few little things out. So in addition to what was in your lab kit, these are some things that you may need. So make sure you have distilled water, around 100 milliliters of them, calculator to help calculate some formulas here, camera, of course, for taking pictures of your results, and then, of course, a pen and pencil to formulate your results here. So again, this is a good guide. There's 2 separate activities. So the prep is going to take about a half hour, and each activity should be about 15 minutes or so for each one. This is a good overview video showing what's in the lab kit. and also some of the extra materials, and then safety guidelines as well too. You're not going to be working with any dangerous chemicals. Yes, you're looking at acids and bases, but you're not going to be dealing with anything dangerous like hydrochloric acid or anything strong like ammonia. So no need to worry about that. But again, it's always good to be safe. So when you think of, pH, I'm going to go ahead and kind of skip into pH here. And this is going to kind of end the section here. I'm not going to go all full into the lab here. So when you think of pH, you always think of this pH scale. You may have learned it back in chemistry in high school. This may have been the first time you see it. pH is looking at a substance. Typically, it's a liquid substance, but it can be done on solids, not necessarily gases, but mainly liquids. And it's a way to measure if something is acidic or if something is basic. So the lower the number, the more acidic it is. So if it's a 0 or 1, you're looking at something very, very acidic. So battery acid, your stomach acid, hydrochloric acid is one of them. As you move along, as the numbers get greater, it's less acidic. It's still acidic, but it's less acidic. So for instance, a pH of 4 or 5 is going to be like your morning coffee. Or lemonade is, lemons are actually a 2. Milk is actually considered to be slightly acidic, not super acidic. 7 is that halfway point between 0 and 14. So 7 is neutral. So you think of something as neutral, it's not acidic, it's not basic, it's neutral, has really not much either way. Water is a good example of that. As the numbers increase further, so 8, 9, 10, you're looking at something that is basic. So usually it has a hydroxide compound to it. So blood, egg whites, stomach tablets, it says here, is somewhat basic. As you move further up, it gets more basic or has more alkalinity in it. So a strong base would be like drain cleaner or bleach. Ammonia is also here as a number 11. Soap, like face soap that you use, is basic. So why is it important? Well, if you ever had blood work done, they actually test the pH of your blood. If it comes back too acidic or too basic, there could be underlying reasons. You could have some type of disorder or disease or a genetic abnormality. So this is why in biology, it's important, at least in human biology, it's important to understand this. It's also important because if you are a scientist in a lab and you're given a substance and you need to determine what it is, you don't want to sniff it if it's ammonia. You don't want to taste it if it's battery acid. So this is a really good way. You probably did this class, if you're like my age or so, you had like a little litmus paper, you dipped it in the solution, and if it was red or blue, or how red or blue it is, determine if something was acidic or basic. Usually blue was basic, red was acidic. You just remember that BB, basic blue. So this is, again, is a good way to determine how a substance, typically again, a liquid substance, how basic or how alkaline it is, or how acidic or how alkaline it is. So again, looking at that. So I'm going to stop here. These are some formulas that you might need to use for your lab. So I'm going to stop here because then it gets into the knowledge checks and things to start the lab. But let me know if you have any questions or anything. Again, just the one assignment. So this lab, again, you're going to do this in the online Carolina Gateway, as long as the do it in the online Carolina Gateway, and then you're going to download that document, upload it here into Brightspace. So just the one assignment due by this coming Sunday. So let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to some great lab reports and seeing the different the pHs in your trays, what you all come up with.